Feels like it's been a jam-packed few days for Alabama. Transfer portal. Couple guys leaving, couple guys coming in. Portal's closed now, and we're seeing what players have decided to come to Alabama. Some guys have been there, and they're going to stick. Some guys are going to join the Crimson Tide for the first time. We're going to get into the roster a little bit on today's show. Like, subscribe, thumbs up. Thanks for hanging out with us here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. And roll tide, everybody. Let's get the show started. Hope you're having a fantastic start to your week. And I know Alabama's feeling good about the start of their week. Roll Tide. What do you say, guys? Mick Gillespie and hanging out with you here on the Bama Tailgate YouTube channel. Thank you for being here. Brought to you by Pearl River Resort over in Philadelphia, Mississippi. And you can find me at Broadcaster Mick on the socials. All right, let's get into it right now. A lot of news kind of going back and forth. We've talked about some of the players leaving. We've talked about some of them coming back. But we got some really big news early this week, and it starts with Keon Sabb officially set to return in 2025. So he's a safety. I thought it was, kind of telling that King Mack decided to transfer out. Mack and Sabb both were transfers in last year. Sabb was part of Michigan's national championship team, and Mack had came from Penn State. We saw both guys on the field. Sabb was a star when he was out there, like expected, but was injured. And it was guys like Bray Hubbard that ended up stepping up for Alabama. Bama feels very comfortable about the safety position going into the season next year. But Sabb, had he stayed healthy, probably would have gone into the NFL. Let's run it back. Roll Tide is what he officially put on his social media feed, and let everybody know that the ultimate goal for Alabama is to win a national championship, something that they fell short of this year. But who knows? Had he been out there, things might have been better for him. So it was him and Malachi Moore at the beginning of the season. Moore's going to go in the NFL draft. He's declared that he's leaving, as you guys already know. And for Sabb, when he was, playing for Alabama and he was healthy, he was a really good player for the Crimson Tide, and he helped Michigan win the national championship. So you're talking about Bray Hubbard, mentioned him, Xavier Brown, Damani Jackson, and, maybe even, some other guys that can move around in the different spots. But that Bama defense I thought they did a pretty good job of backfilling when Sabb was out, partly because Hubbard was so good. And people kept talking about Hubbard and how he was grading. And the fact that the guy came off the bench and just seemed to be a football player's football player. And so maybe even a surprise to a lot of folks. But, obviously having Sabb back makes Bama a much better team. So that was good news for Alabama. I don't know that anyone expected him not to come back, but it was good that he would return to the Crimson Tide and join Alabama. So along with Sabb returning, how about this? Jaeden Roberts is back. And it felt like Jalen Roberts, who is returning to the Alabama offensive line, would be technically his senior season, where Sabb would be a redshirt junior, is entering what would be really his fifth year with the Crimson Tide. And he's been a starter for Alabama at right guard since, halfway through the season in 23. Started 12 games in this last season, missed the Mercer game due to an injury. And Mike Johnson on our show, the All-American Report, felt like maybe, he just looked at times like he might have been playing hurt. Roberts is definitely a warrior, someone that you look at and go, okay, you want to have him back on your team just because of the experience that it brings. So now looking at the offensive line, it's going to be anchored by Parker Brailsford, the center, one of the best centers in the country, and a guy who really lived up to the hype after transferring from Washington a year ago. Left tackle Caden Proctor. Proctor's can be really good, sometimes maybe a little bit slow, but he's coming back. Elijah Pritchett transferred, right? So he's gone. And then Tyler Booker is going to the NFL, right? So you got some big-time recruits. I thought Alabama had one of their best years recruiting. It's going to be very interesting to see how this offensive line shakes out, but I think we would all agree that the offensive line wasn't great last year. It was good. It was good, but it wasn't great. At times it was bad. At other times it was dominant. They've got to be more consistent. Coach Cap and that offensive line really need to try to, basically take over games. And some people are going to say, well, part of that's Jalen Milroe. And you guys have sent me the video. I've seen the video. It does appear that Milroe's feet definitely led to teams knowing whether Alabama was going to throw or pass. When he was going to hand the ball off, his feet were near each other. When he was going to throw it, they were a little bit more apart. It was obvious. And maybe that's why in certain games, teams knew exactly what Alabama was going to do. And so that doesn't help your offensive line either. So, however you look at it, those two guys coming back, Roberts and Sabb, will definitely give Alabama a lift. And you're talking about some pretty good players coming back. Keon and Jackson on defense. Obviously Deontay Lawson returning. Bama's got a lot of experience that's coming back on that defensive side of the football. The offense is going to look a lot different next year just because you're not going to have Jalen Milroe at quarterback and Tyler Booker, on the offensive line. Now, let's talk about this. Bama's having a lot of success in the transfer portal, and it was Dre'lyn Washington from the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns that picked Alabama. So they pick up a couple of running backs over the weekend. That one came late on Sunday. But I just thought it was interesting. You look at these guys that are coming in off the portal, and Bama had a very productive weekend in the portal with Washington being the last guy to transfer in. He was a former 3-star, and all he did was go to, the Sun Belt Conference and take care of business. And now how's that going to translate into the SEC? Well, it could translate. You lose a top 100 running back in Justice Haynes, but when you watch Haynes' game, he just could not read blocks. And even though he had all the tools to be a great running back, and I know some of you are going to say, well, he didn't give him the ball enough, and that's true too. Maybe they could have fed him some more. But you would watch these games, and the vision wasn't really that good. And I'm sure over the course of seeing the ball more, he'll get better at it. But Jam Miller was clearly the better running back, and he could catch the ball. And then after the performance against Auburn, where he touched the ball over 25 times, you had to know that he was going to be the guy coming in. So now you're looking at depth pieces here. 5'9", 220 pounds. Washington's going to come in for his redshirt senior, so he'll get an opportunity to play at a place like Alabama. It's going to be a lot different than playing at Louisiana, because now all of a sudden everything you do is a big deal. And he had really good numbers for the Ragin Cajuns, right? Over 1,300 yards on 229 carries. He averaged just under 6 yards per attempt, and finished with about 480 yards on 73 carries, 5 touchdowns his redshirt junior season. So Andrew Bone, our buddy, you see him in the open. He's the best. BOL did an awesome job of covering this one, bringing it up. We love Bone, and obviously Bama Online, but just talking about this transfer portal for Alabama, I don't know right now that this isn't a good move for Alabama compared. I didn't want to see Justice Haynes go, but you find somebody that's able to read blocks a little bit better, somebody that's has had a ton of experience and success at maybe not the same level as the SEC, but you're going to have better blockers. You're not going to be asked to do as much for Alabama. You know how to tote the rock. You're out there to prove that you belong. This could be a really good pickup for the Crimson Tide, and 2 running backs over the weekend, not too shabby for Alabama. Now, the last thing that I wanted to get into was this, and it's talking about Bone and the guys on these services, that cover Alabama, barely recruiting, but they're so good at finding out what's going on. And this was kind of a surprise. This was actually Matt Zenith of 24/7 Sports that was first to report this. And then, a lot of other, people jumped in on it. But how cool is it that Jason Jones, who is a former Alabama DB, is being targeted to come back as an assistant defensive backs coach and come back to Alabama. I love that. I love it when you bring back guys that understand what it's like to be part of the Alabama program. It felt like last year in some areas that maybe Coach DeBoer and his staff were missing a little something when it comes to Alabama. And look, I love Freddie Roach. You know, he's a former player that's there. There's some other guys as well. But it just felt like when Saban left, we just didn't have that. Well, Kevin Steele a couple years ago is a great example. I just loved when he was the defensive coordinator because he understood what it was and then he understood what it meant, you know, and then this year there were times when it just didn't feel like Alabama. And I think that having guys like Jason Jones come back and help out, and he'd be an assistant to Maurice Lindquist, who is the co-defensive coordinator and defensive backs coach. And, you know, being that you can have more on-field assistance, you know, it opens up an opportunity there. I got a feeling that there's some more moves that could possibly come. I've told you, don't be surprised if Ryan Grubb isn't in the mix here sometime soon after being fired from Seattle. I just really think that him and DeBoer are going to reunite, and I think it's going to be a good thing for Alabama. And then Colin Hitchler was let go or left or whatever. He was the defensive backs coach last year for Alabama, and he came in with a great resume, and who knows, maybe it just didn't work out for some reason, but you know, we'll see. A lot of changes are going to come, I think, just because that's what happens in the offseason. Although there feels like there's a lot more stability when it comes to the coaching staff that DeBoer has. I mean, at this time when Nick Saban was head coach, you know, half the coaches are going and they're getting their own job and they're taking other coaches with them. It doesn't really feel like that's the vibe. But also when you're 9-4, it's not like everybody wants to poach your coaches. So the winning needs to come with that as well. All right, a couple things I want to tell you guys as we hang out with you here on the channel. First off, that we appreciate Pearl River Resort for putting on the channel every day. I mean, they do the work that makes us do the work, right? They throw this together by throwing it together, whatever that means. And right now, we're inviting you to go to Pearl River Resort, check out the Timeout Sports Lounge. If you want that Vegas-style experience, all you got to do is go to Philadelphia, Mississippi. And it's not that far from Tuscaloosa. Cool little town in Mississippi. You don't run into a bunch of traffic. It's easy to get to from Tuscaloosa, not far from Birmingham, but you get that Vegas-style experience with all the amenities, man. Great restaurants like Philip M. Steakhouse, which I've been in there many times. Try the chowder and thank me later when you're in there. It's amazing, the seafood chowder. But great steaks, awesome vibe. Prices aren't bad. Mom and Them's restaurant. You know, you got the bistro, they places that stay open 24 hours in there. You got table games and slots. Just a really good feel to the place. Silver Star and Golden Moon have music acts that play. Sometimes big time music acts like Boys to Men and Big and Rich and Hinder and Tonic and Fuel, you know, which is the last concert. Some more really good concerts coming up. And they also have, like, you know, small bands that play inside the casino. So you playing the table games, slots, move over, dance a little bit, have some fun. But you got that whole vibe there at Pearl River Resort in Philadelphia. The other thing I want to tell you guys is this, is that we are presented and proudly presented by newlifeart.com. And those guys have been part of the show. Both of these have since we started, and even really before we started. New Life Art has been on board, and Pearl River back when I was on radio only. But I absolutely love what Daniel Moore does. You guys know that. You get 20% off when you use that promo code Bama Tailgate to I say pimp out your man cave, but all the great pictures. He's the best sports artist ever. The Ryan Williams print is just breathtaking. The Jalen Milroe Gravedigger play print is one of the greatest prints that he ever did. Just the coloring and the lighting, and it really captured the moment that Auburn was stunned in Jordan-Hare Stadium. All of those, check them out. You can just minus the new releases, 20% off when you use that promo code Bama Tailgate. Whether you want the big prints, you want the small prints, the mugs, the calendars, all that stuff. The Nick Saban commemorative print. Find out for yourself at newlifeart.com. Thank you guys for hanging. And if something breaks, we'll jump on here. You can also catch me on Cover Crimson and covercrimson.com. So wherever I'm at, you're welcome to be there. You're welcome to be there. And I welcome you to join us And roll Tide, everybody.
Escape to Pearl River Resort.